I hear the low chime first, the one I set special for the samples room, because the bright one makes my hands shake by hour 10. And I don't even look up until I hear him ask the tech at the front bench whether Priya still works the night bench. Because 11 months ago, he says, a night bench tech kept him breathing through the worst 4 days of his life, and he never got her last name. I about dropped the pipette. I'm Priya Anand, 29, phlebotomist and night lab lead at Cedar Grove Memorial. And I have drawn blood from thousands of strangers' arms in the 8 years I've worked this floor. But I remember Owen Marsh's arm specifically, because it took me 4 tries on the second night. His veins collapsed from dehydration and fear, and instead of getting angry like most people do by try number 3, he asked me to tell him about my dog. I don't have a dog. I made one up on the spot, a beagle named Ferris who eats socks, and Owen laughed so hard the vein finally cooperated. That's the whole story I told myself about him for 11 months. A guy who laughed at a fake beagle while a machine hummed 12 feet from his gurney, and nobody knew yet if his numbers would turn around. They turned around. I know because I checked the discharge log, which is not something we're supposed to do, technically, tracking a patient after their chart closes, but the lab runs a shared board, and I saw his name move to discharged, stable on a Thursday in September, and I stood in the break room and felt something I had no business feeling about a man I'd known for 4 nights under fluorescent light while he was, medically speaking, at the mercy of my steady hands. So no, there was nothing between us then. I want to be clear about that, because I've thought about it enough to be sure. You don't flirt with a man who can't leave the building, whose blood pressure you're charting every 4 hours, who thanks you the way people thank a nurse or a tech when they're scared and grateful and half out of their mind with what's happening to their own body. That gratitude isn't love. It just looks like it under bad lighting, and I know the difference, and I kept it professional the way you're supposed to, right down to the last night when he squeezed my hand once, said, "Thank you, Priya," and I said, "Get some rest, Mr. Marsh," and went back to my cart. Now he's standing at the front bench in a gray jacket that fits him the way hospital gowns never could. Hair grown out, color back in his face, and he's asking a total stranger for my last name, like he's been carrying the first half of it around for almost a year, waiting for a reason to come finish the sentence. "It's Anand," I say, before the tech can answer, and he turns, and there's this pause where neither of us says anything, because what do you say? "Hey, remember when you were possibly dying and I made up a beagle? Hey, remember when I drew your blood at 3 in the morning and you were the only bright thing in a 12-hour shift? You cut your hair," he says instead, which is such a strange, small thing to notice that it undoes me a little. "You gained your color back," I say, and it comes out more tender than I mean it to, and I watch it land on him. He tells me he's been better for months now. Routine follow-ups only. Nothing that requires me, or this building, or a bench with my name on the schedule. And he wanted to come back and say the thing he wasn't in a position to say when I had a clipboard, and he had an ID bracelet. Because back then, whatever he felt didn't count, couldn't count, not with him weak and scared, and me holding some responsibility for whether he made it through the week. He'd thought about that line a long time, he says, where gratitude to the person who helped you stops, and something else, something real, starts. He didn't want to hand me the second thing wrapped up in the first, so he waited and got well and got discharged and let 11 months go by to make sure whatever he was carrying wasn't just relief wearing a nicer coat. I don't know if everyone would draw that line where he drew it. I've talked to other techs who'd say once a chart's closed, whatever happens next between 2 adults is nobody's business, and others who'd say a caregiver-patient bond is different forever, that it never fully turns into a clean slate no matter how many months pass. I sat with that question longer than I've sat with most things. Whether the man in front of me now, easy and clear-eyed and grinning like the fake beagle joke still lives in him somewhere, is a different man from the one who thanked me on a gurney, or the same man finally free to say what he meant. I decided he's both. The fear built something between us that was real, even if it wasn't allowed to be named yet, and the waiting he did afterward. Not calling, not visiting, not leaning on a nurse's kindness while he was still fragile. That's what convinced me the second thing wasn't the first thing in disguise. He earned the right to stand at my bench and ask my last name. "So," he says, "would you get coffee with someone who once made you laugh so hard you nearly pulled your own IV out?" "Only if you tell me you still remember the beagle's name," I say. "Ferris," he says instantly, and something in my chest that had been braced for a year finally lets go. We got coffee that Friday, and 6 more Fridays after that. And somewhere around the second month, I told him there was never a beagle, there was never even a dog, and he laughed the same way he did that first night, like the joke was worth more for being made up. I think about that a lot. How the truest thing between us started as something invented to get a scared man's mind off a needle, and how it turned out to be sturdy enough to hold real weight once the fear was gone, and there was nothing left to prove except that we liked each other, plainly, in daylight, with no clipboard between us. I still work the night bench. The chime still has 3 settings. But these days when it goes off bright on a Tuesday evening, I look up hoping.